published more than 100 papers in high impact factor journals and in international conference with peer review. She is the guest editor of several special issues, member of the scientific committees of many international conferences. Her main focus are on epidemiological models. As we will continue such a topic. Yes, please, Professor, you can continue with your talk.
Okay, let me say some words about Carla one second, because I am replacing the chairman. So I kindly invite young Turkish people and all participants, young or not, to try to put questions to Carla to understand what she is presenting, because she has a lot of experience in this mathematical biology, epidemiology for many years. And this is a big advantage for all of us, because some people know mathematics more, some people know biological things more, but it's very rarely you can see people knowing both things. And knowing both things, it means that you are successful in writing papers and projects and obtaining good results. Please, Carla.
Well, thank you so much for this amazing introduction, the excellent introduction. I don't know, I just hope I am willing to be at that high level that you just put me. I just want to tell you that I'm just a learner. I learn every day, and the one thing that I want is to learn today more than I knew yesterday, you know. So, and this is the main advice, if I am allowed to give one to the young researchers, is to be better each day than the day before. Just that, to learn, to try always to keep learning, and to try always to, you know, challenge themselves in order to be better each day. That's what I try to do. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoy my talk. I will now share my screen. Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, let me see if I can do this. Okay, good. Oh, okay. So I'm going to talk about tackling specificities of different diseases using within host models. I've heard yesterday and the day before, yesterday about cancer dynamics, and so I decided to take advantage of it and specifically speak about cancer dynamics. And so I will show you 3 models that are already published in the literature on cancer dynamics, and they are related with HIV/AIDS. As you know, this is my main research topic. I like it very much, and since HIV is still unfortunately chronic disease worldwide. Gladly is chronic. Unfortunately, it still has a lot of millions of people who are infected, and also are infected daily also. And so more than 46 million people have died from AIDS, which is the last stage of HIV infection. And so this is extremely useful if you can help the health policy makers to deal with this disease. Anyhow, in 1980, as you know, this was so it was a pandemic by then, and it already existed before. So they believe this type of disease, which appeared in monkeys, it's called HIV, in that case, simian immunodeficiency virus. It appeared, they believe, in 1920s, 30s, something like this in Africa. And then afterwards, humans got infected by it, by some contact with these simians. And then only 1980 was the so the outbreak was known worldwide, but it was already there. And so this HIV has three main stages. There is the infection, the first stage. Your body starts to fight the virus, of course, but then this virus is extremely difficult to fight because it hides from your immune system. And it hides exactly in those cells that are main players in your immune system, which are the CD40 cells. They manage to bind to the membrane of these CD40 cells and get into the cell, and then they use the cell DNA to be able to replicate. And once after they drain the cell, there's a burst, and the virus, millions of virus, are released in the bloodstream. And it is, and there are already antivirals, of course, and there are extremely effective nowadays, more than 90% of efficacy of these new antivirals. But there are also these latent reservoirs in our bodies, which for instance, are hidden. The virus hide in macrophages, which are also another cell type of our immune system, or they hide in these CD40 cells, and they can be there in this latent stage for years, decades. And once someone who was infected with HIV and is under highly antiretroviral therapy, he stops medication, then he has these bumps in the viral load again. And so this is why someone who is infected with HIV must take their medicines carefully and for life. And they have their quality of life has increased in several years. But after these initial stages, I told you, they go to the chronic phase and they can be there forever nowadays. But there are also other people who develop the AIDS-defining malignancies, which are cancers. You have the Kaposi sarcoma, you have the cervix cancer, and this is the looks, which you can see in these images around here. So if you have one of these cancers, then you are officially at AIDS, which is the third stage of HIV infection, and so you'll probably die. So our first model, as you can see here, is a within host model. What does this mean? This means that you're modeling the dynamics of the cells inside your body. So this is not a population model. Population is when you have susceptible, infected people, individuals. This model is a within host model. So you have cells. So, for instance, the first equation is related to the dynamics of the cancer cells. The second equation is tells us by which rule the dynamics of the CD40 cells apply. Then we have the third equation, which is the latent reservoir cells. So the dynamics of the cells of the latent reservoir, which are so these cells where the virus hides. And once upon a time when he decided, so when the person stops the medication, they decided to become active. And the actively infected cells are the fourth equation of the model from top to bottom. Then you have the dynamics of the virus, V prime. And then the last equation is related with chemotherapy. Okay, so we move on, and here you can see the labels of the cells. So CFT are the cancer cells. Sorry for this noise. T are the healthy CD40 cells. L are the latently infected cells, I are the infected CD40 cells, and V, it's HIV. And then we have this impulsive control, which I will talk about it, but it has to do with the chemotherapy. And so this is a type of impulsive dynamical system. Why? Because we have three components: a smooth vector field, which gives us the system's evolution. We have then a smooth scalar function, which is the event function, and tells us when we should intervene in the system, so to provide the chemotherapy doses to the patient. And then we have a reset function, which establishes the instantaneous change in the phase variables after perturbation. What does this mean? This means that I have a dynamical system, which is given by this sole equation here. So z prime of t is equal to a function of zeta of t and lambda. Lambda are the parameters, as you can see here. And so this is your system that we have to study. By the way, I didn't tell you what this represented, the rules of the dynamical systems rules, right? So as I've told you, the first part has to do with the cancer cells. So here you have the proliferation rate, the first term on top after the Z prime equation. You have R1 times something minus K1 and minus CC. So what you have here is the first term, which has a plus sign, has to do with the proliferation rate of cancer cells. Then you have the removal, minus K1 is the removal of cancer cells by the immune system, by the cells of the immune system, in this case CD40 cells. And then you have this another removal, which has to do with the cells from the other the other immune system, from the other cells of the immune system. And here you have the application of the chemotherapeutic drug, and it's done in discrete times. Okay, and T of D is the time, of course, the periods of time that we set to decide when the drug is applied, and DIN here in the bottom is the amount of drug that you give to the patient. So these are two main parameters in this cancer cells model. Why? Because you have the drug period and you have the drug doses, okay? And if you manage to find an optimal balance between these two values, okay, then you can reduce optimally the cancer cells in the body. And so the HIV cancer model can be written as a hybrid dynamical system in this way. After chemotherapy application, when you have the chemotherapy application and when you don't, it's easy. And then you can see here some numerical investigation of what we have done. So in the first graph, you see the drug application. And then you see on the other three graphs, the cancer cells, the viral load, and the infected CD40 cells. And as you can see, we obtain a periodic solution asymptotically, and when the chemotherapy is applied, you see there's a decrease in the number of cancer cells. So what was our main goal here in this paper? Was exactly to find a region, a perimeter region of these two bifurcation parameters, which were the doses period and the drug period and the doses of the drug, in order to be able to find the best value of the best parameter region of the optimal, if you want to talk like that, the optimal parameter region to reduce the number of cancer cells. So we had, we did this numerical continuation using COCO. It's the software who can be used to do this. And as you can see here, for instance, this graph on your left, the bottom one, you can see that if you increase the TD, which is the drug period, you have an increase, you can see an increase in the number of cancer cells and also an increase in the number in the HIV viral load. So this suggests you that what is seen biologically in patients, that if they have higher viral loads, which happened in the eighth stage, which is the third stage of HIV infection. So if you are at the 8th stage, you have a significantly huge viral load, and then you have more cancer cells. And but you can, if you reduce the period, the time period of injection of chemotherapy in people, then you can reduce the proliferation of cancer cells, and also this will help to reduce the viral load, the HIV viral load. And so here we have done the same continuation of this periodic response, but with the drug per injection, the amount of drug per injection. As you can see, there's also a bifurcation. So after some value, there are no longer benefits of increasing the doses. But if you do the continuation in 2 parameters, what you can see is that the first subgraph on your left, you can see there's a region, 2 regions. One for HIV eradication and one for HIV presence. And this is a region, 2-dimensional region, where you can see on the y-axis is the amount of drug per injection. On the x-axis, you have the time for the period of the injection. So this was a model that we have published together with Burcu. She is Turkish, and she was here in this conference yesterday. I don't know if she's here today. Burcu was in this paper, and also Joseph Paez, who is from Ecuador. And the model, this model included aggressive chemotherapy and also treatment for HIV. But we're mainly focused on the chemotherapy, which was administered by periodic impulsive perturbations. And we studied the periodic behavior of our model for the variation of the parameters who we thought were the most important here, which was the drug injection period and the drug influx per injection. And this could influence the system response from a clinical perspective, since there are this region of the parameters for which we can eradicate HIV. Wait a minute, let me say this. Nobody which has been infected with HIV is ever cleaned from HIV. So we only have 1 or 2. We have the Berlin patient and someone else in all of these years that we know the infection. Everyone else, which, and also we also have these elite controllers, which are more or less, I believe, 10% of the people who are infected by HIV and manage to live with it and to reduce it by their own immune system without having to use antiretrovirals. But the main of us, so the rest of the population, more than 90% of the population, if they are infected for life. So when we say HIV in the models that HIV is eradicated, so it may be in theory, but in practice, in epidemiology, for real people, they don't ever get rid of HIV, okay? It's there, it will be there. The only thing that they do is that they manage to lower the viral loads for lower than 50 copies per milliliter of blood. And this is, so they have the disease controlled, but the virus is there and will be there for life, okay? So make no mistake. Unfortunately, this virus won't ever leave us. So, as I've told you, we've used COCO, which is a software which allows us to do these beautiful bifurcation graphs. And we managed to find an optimal operation point at which HIV ideally, that's why we write ideally, because it's not true, is eliminated. And this was our first model that I wanted to speak to you about. Then this is the second one. In this model, we have already included the different immune functions. So there's this EI of T. So if you go on the model and you see the not the last equation, which has to do with chemotherapy, but the previous one, E prime of T. This is the CTL, so cytotoxic T lymphocytes. And what we do here, this FI, this function, is the different proliferation rates of these cytotoxic T lymphocytes. And we study two of them. Oh, this is just a table with parameters and units of the model. I just wanted to show you here, if you have, so in this function F1, the proliferation rate of the cytotoxic T lymphocytes, which are these E's, is only dependent on themselves and infected CD40 cells. And here on top, on the top graph, you have no infection, no HIV infection, but you have everything else lowering, including the cancer cells. And on the bottom graph, what you have is an infection. So the person has HIV infection. And as you can see, the cancer cells are also here. They are present here. So this associates the cancer, the development of cancers with HIV infection. And here you can see another proliferation rate of these cytotoxic T lymphocytes, the CTLs, which are here represented by E. And in the first case, you have a situation where there is no infection, no HIV infection, so very similar to the previous one. But here on the bottom graphic, what you have is HIV infection, but this is asymptotically this goes to an equilibrium, right? Whereas on the first type of function, proliferation function of the immune cells, they go to a periodic solution. So this is was something that we wanted to study. If the differences in the proliferation rate of the CTLs would have or would determine the dynamics of the cancer cells. And as you can see, there's a difference here. So in this model, we didn't take into consideration chemotherapy or how do I say this? Or efficacy of the antiviral drugs. And so the two chosen immune functions, as you could see, they have different dynamics, especially when you have infection. And if you have real data, maybe this can help clinicians adjust treatment efficacy for real patients. And then the third model on cancer cells, on AIDS-related cancers. It's a small one, as you can see. It's the simplest one. Maybe I should have started with this one. I was thinking of not showing it, but then I thought, oh, well, this has so beautiful dynamics, why not showing it? So here we have the cancer cells on the top differential equation, and then we only have the CD40 cells, the infected CD40 cells, and the viral load. And here it's a different model because it has delay. So instead of putting here some latent cells, CD40 latent cells, we decided to create a delay from when the CD40 cells are infected until the virals are released, until they become actively infected, and then the virus are released in the bloodstream. And so this has several equilibria, okay? It's also published. We studied this lemma concerning this equilibrium. So trivial equilibrium, the cancer equilibrium, the healthy equilibrium, which means there's no disease, the cancer health equilibrium, and so on. And we studied those equilibrium and stability, local stability, and it's a big lemma, sorry for that, you can see it afterwards. And then the simulations are very interesting because we decided to use as a bifurcation parameter the proliferation rate of the cancer cells, and we got period doubling bifurcations until chaos appeared. And so we started with the cancer HIV healthy equilibrium. So you have here disease already established, and then you have a period one solution, periodic solution. Here you have the cancer cells, the CD40 cells, and infected CD40 cells. Then you have period 2. Then you have period 16 here already, and here you have the chaotic behavior. So as you can see, the person has developed cancer. He has carcinoma, but here we weren't, we didn't include chemotherapy, of course. So I wanted to show you this. This was a statistician, George E.P. Box, who said, all models are wrong, but some are useful. And I truly agree with him. Why? Since if the models were perfect, they would be reality themselves, right? And we cannot model reality because it is too complex. If the model is too complex, then you cannot analyze it theoretically, and the conclusions that you take from it are very weak, right? So, but we can use simple models or not much complex models and try to extract some information from them. And so this is something that I wanted to tell you. Another thing that I wanted to tell you is that in a month, more or less, you are all invited to attend this conference. The fees are waived, so you can submit your work to the conference, and we'll be most glad to welcome you at Porto, Portugal, but unfortunately only online. We just hope in future conferences you can be here in in person, in face-to-face, because Porto is a very beautiful city. We have the sea, we have the river, we have everything. But this picture here has to do with Douro Vineyards. It's more or less 100 kilometers from Porto, and it was the place where I was born. It's very beautiful also. So these are some of the references, and some you can find it more on my ResearchGate or Archived web pages. And I would like to thank the organizers for their kindness and to invite me to be here and be able to share my work with you, my results. And again, as I've told you in the beginning, I just hope that I learned today more than I knew yesterday and continue to do so. So thank you very much for listening. And I stop my presentation here. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla, for your nice presentation. Now, the questions. Please feel free to ask.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yes, please.
Although I was not invited, I saw the link here in the group, so I decided to attend. First comment is that I don't think that there is a scientific proof that HIV was first found in Africa. It is a belief among scientists. However, there is an history that tells us that HIV was created to destroy Black people and homosexual people. So that is the first remark. The second remark is a question. I have realized in epidemiology we are using the reproductive number. And I read a paper where they said that the reproductive number is not unique because you can use different methods to obtain a reproductive number. And we use it to study the stability. However, when you read the paper that was published recently in about COVID, having our reproductive number, we were unable to detect that the spread of COVID will have 2, 3, 4, 6 waves. And so my real question is, how useful is this reproductive number? And will we only use the same analysis in all the paper? We have the reproductive number, Jacobian matrix. Is there something new that can be proposed that will be better, that will help human beings to predict the future when there is a spread? That is my question.
Thank you very much, Abdon, for your comments and remarks. So I don't know if HIV was so developed in laboratory. I have no idea, but I usually don't, I usually only think of math. I don't think about the color of people who study math. So my skin is so white, but it could be any other color. So I just think of mathematics and good researchers. And I don't have anything to do with any colors of the skin. So for me, everyone, and if he's good or she is a good researcher, then for me it's fine. I accept everyone. And as to your question regarding the reproduction number, I use always the method by the Rich and the water mouse, because it's widely used in the epidemiological models and people accept it. And I find it, I find it easy to understand the meaning of the reproduction number and how it's calculated in using those matrices. So I can include here the, wait a minute, so that everyone knows the reproduction number. The paper, which is I think the Bible of more people, a lot of people who study epidemiology use. And you can see here, wait a minute, everyone, you can find it easily. And it's by P. van der Driech and Watermouth. And I can easily use it and can easily understand what you're talking about, and to explain, since the reproduction number is the number of secondary infections due to one single susceptible, either it is within host model, so it is one single infected cell, or a population model, which is one person infected. So other one, so the reproduction number is always the number of secondary infections due to one single infection in a susceptible population. Either it is a susceptible population of people, of individuals, of animals, or of cells. So this is what I use, and I like it. And so I don't know if there are others, but I trust this one.
Is there any other question?
Can I make
Is there any other question?
Yes.
So you speak about the paper of Van der Disch, yes, which is yes, they use to calculate it. They use the
matrices of the infection terms and no infection.
Yes, but before they reach there, they take the nonlinear part. They find the first derivative. So why do they find the first derivative? This is not about you to answer this question. It is about all of us using this in epidemiology. Why they use the first derivative? What are the reasons of the analysis of the first derivative in mathematics? So those are the questions that we have to answer. So if you can tell me why they use the first derivative and what is the implication, why they did not use half derivative, or why they did not use second derivative, for example?
Dawn, I will let people read the paper first, and if you have any questions concerning that, then they can surely send me an email to here. I leave here my email, and they can easily talk to that and reply. I usually reply to everyone. So
Carla,
I believe, thank you so much, Dawn, for your questions.
Carla,
Yes, Professor.
Can you comment about fractional modeling?
Oh yeah, I didn't include here the fractional modeling. Well, because I already spoke a lot on the other conference, so I decided to put different stuff here, so not be repeating. But I can tell you, fractional derivatives are important, of course, in every field, including also in epidemiology. But one has really to know what one is doing. So fractional derivatives, so fractionalizing an epidemiological model is not just putting the Caputo derivative usually on the left side and leaving the parameters on the right, or leaving the equations on the right side same without making any modifications. Or even if you use the same units on both sides, I've done that. But for instance, if alpha is very small, then to the power of alpha, some parameters really become almost zero. So there's a paper that I have already distributed on that India conference, which it was published in ICAME', and the authors, they already overcome these gaps. So they already managed to derive a method in which the parameters in a fractional order model can have a biological meaning. But this also has to be studied carefully, because the different diseases have different specificities, and you should be take care of the conclusions that you make. I know you have, for instance, I see a lot of papers which have fitting to real data. Okay, good, but what does it mean to have an alpha equal to 0.5 or 64 or whatever that fits better the dots of real data? Sometimes real data is, most of the times real data is wrong, because they only share with you the data that you want to share.
So we fitted wrong data.
Yeah. First, there is the wrong data.
All models are wrong.
Yeah,
All
all
models
models are
are wrong.
wrong, and the real data can also be wrong because they cannot give it to you the real data, you know, in order to not
Right.
press people. But anyhow, explaining that alpha equal to 0.76 or whatever has a better fit than alpha equals to 1, what exactly does that mean epidemiologically from the pandemic point of view, from the epidemics point of view? You know what I mean? This is different when you consider, for instance, the drug input, the drug amount. If you manage to say that it has a meaning, so that drug amount has a meaning, then you can say it to the doctors. You know what I mean? The fractionalized drug amount has a meaning, then biological meaning. Then you can tell this information to the doctors. Otherwise, I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have papers, of course, they publish, and you have theoretical results.
Mathematics is correct.
Yeah, yes, but then
Mathematics is correct. Yes.
Health implications of it.
Right. I suggest to stop the discussion here and to continue to the round table. I kindly invite all of the participants. Thank you for everybody. Thank you, Abdon. Thank you for asking questions. Thank you for Carla for excellent presentation as usual. So we hope we'll be seen in Porto.
Yes.
Yeah, online from Balakesir to Porto, teleportation is very simple and very nice. I hope to continue our discussions about fractional mathematical modeling in biology. Thank you very much, Carla. Thank you very much to all participants.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much. Thanks, the organizer again. Thank you. Bye-bye.